Hi, everyone. My name is Karolina Pelc. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about leveraging technology to increase productivity. As a starting point, I'd give you a little bit of a background of myself. I'm an owner at Basic Strategy Consultancy that I've been running for over a year. I act as a broker and management consultant. And when it comes to past experience, I worked in a range of roles, including a CPO for games marketing, VP innovation, but I think I'm mostly known for the 3 years that I spent at Leo Vegas Group as a casino director. I like to think of myself as a productive person. I worked with multiple teams across different geographical locations. I am very used to working from home and working remotely. So I think I might have a couple of interesting tips to share with you all. And I think what gives a statement to my perception as a productivity geek is a reference I once asked for from my colleague at Betson Group a couple of years ago. And all he wrote on my LinkedIn is, "Karolina gets stuff done." That was it. I'd like to share a couple of things with you today. I think I wanted to start with productivity in the times of COVID, during the C times. And I stole this expression from a really great presentation from last week from Jasper, from Jean Green Jade, who referred to COVID-19 as crazy times, crisis times, C times. I would like to make sure that this talk is not taken as another sort of patronizing presentation where it will just trigger you to feel that you're not doing enough, that you're not utilizing all this additional time you gained to become productive, more productive than before. This is not my aim. On the contrary, I think this is probably not the time to stress about increasing your productivity and putting additional pressure on yourself. It's already a thin balancing act, considering everything that is happening around us, all the fear, feeling that you need to prove yourself constantly, uncertainty. A lot of us have lost childcare, which adds to the pressure. So again, this is more something I want to share with you so that you and something to look forward to when we get out on the other side of this to perhaps implement. I think what's important to highlight in the current context is that productivity is relative, is very relative to your circumstances, is very relative to your personal goals and what your journey is. Some people definitely get in the ninja mode. They utilize the additional time for reading books, reorganizing their wardrobes, or getting extra productive at work. But for many of us, it's purely a survival mode. And that's okay. There is nothing to feel ashamed of. This is not the time to be the parent of the year, and it's also not the time to be the employee of the month. So despite the media and social platforms constantly overloading us with sort of pictures and snippets of people doing all those great things, if your highlight of the day is to just get through without breaking down, it's fine. So this is what I wanted to start my presentation with, and only then move on to general productivity. And I think it's important to remember about whatever you decide to do, put your well-being and your mental well-being first. What I also wanted to say this presentation is not about, it's not going to be a Trello or Jira training. I'm not going to be talking about backlog, grooming process, pizza squads, tribe skills, or agile methodology. This is more in relation to your personal productivity, both at home and at work, so that you can get more stuff done. I'm by no means any productivity guru. I'm still on my own journey of optimizing my productivity, but I'm quite big on self-development, and I utilize tools like Audible in my spare time, which I don't have a lot, to sort of get inspiration from people that are more experienced in the matter and way more smarter than me when it comes to these subjects. And I just want to make sure you don't think I did not read all these books now. I'm definitely more in a survival mode than I am in a ninja mode. This is sort of research I've been doing over the last couple of years. And the main source of inspiration I use, and I wanted to share with you today, is the following 3 books. Getting Things Done by David Allen. It's an international bestseller published in 2001. It's been updated to be more relevant to the current times and take into consideration technology in 2015. And there's another book called Productivity Ninja by Graham Alcott. And this book is sort of an improved version of the, in my view, improved of the Getting Things Done methodology from the previous book. And another one is Make Time by Jake Knapp. And for those of you working in product, you are familiar with the author because they wrote a really useful book for product people called Sprint. So these books I highly recommend for you to perhaps listen to Audible and read when you have some free time. And I've taken some time to it's important that you have a system in place where you can brain dump, essentially, rather than trying to remember all these things, which takes you away from knowing how to focus on the right things. Additional sort of findings from the book is that we don't need time, we need space. The book talks about time management being an old-fashioned technique, calling it a dead technique. Time management is, according to the authors, also inefficient. It's all about attention and making sure you know how to focus on the right times. Great decision making comes from the ability to create the time and space to think rationally about the issue at hand. If you don't make that space in your mind, you'll never be able to properly engage and apply appropriate attention to what you're doing. And another important thing to mention is that getting things done does not equal getting everything done, which a lot of people don't realize. So just to give you a little bit of a summary of the process, I'm not going to go through any complex flowcharts. I have included them for your reference if you wanted to revisit them later. But the main process behind getting things done, regardless if you use the actual GTD or the core methodology, is to collect all your ideas in one place so that they don't occupy space in your mind. Spend some time clarifying and looking at the issues, analyzing their urgency, analyzing the dependencies that you have, and also how do they map against your goals. Then taking the time to organize them, and I'll be talking about the tools that you can use for that. Do a weekly review, which is an important one. And I'm not sure why I haven't applied this technique earlier, because I'm a product professional and sort of the idea of backlog prioritization is very present in my work life, but I did not apply it to my productivity. It only recently occurred to me that it's probably the most natural way to review your priorities, how relative they are to the current situation that you've got and the current goals. And the last thing is to engage. Make sure that you choose the things that you want to work on and properly apply attention to them and engage. A couple of other findings that I found the most useful from all the methodology the book consists of. 2-minute rule. It's a rule I've been using for a really long time, and I apply it to everything. When I go through my inbox in the morning, I look through my emails and check which ones I can action in 2 minutes and delete. It is the same for all your ideas you store. If you can action the idea, implement the idea within 2 minutes, just go ahead and do it. If you can't, then follow the rest of the process. The real game changer for me was the someday maybe list, because I developed a little bit of a obsessive almost relationship with my to-doist, and I was getting stressed because I was always trying to assign deadlines, making sure that nothing slips my attention. And if I had too many tasks in one day, I'd get stressed. But if I did split them up in time, I would get stressed that I'm too organized and too planned for too much in advance. So I couldn't really figure out the way around it until I came around the concept of someday maybe list, which basically means that if you can't action this now, throw it in a someday maybe list, and then on a weekly basis, you look through the list and apply all the process from the beginning. And this way you'll be able to get through the list in a much more efficient manner. Another takeaway is from the Make Time book, and you can read about it more either in the book or on a very interesting blog that they run, is to choose a highlight to make time a day. It basically talks about trying to focus on just one big thing every day, spending around 60 to 90 minutes on your specific goal, and then utilize the rest of the day for your chores, for your admin, and for appropriate planning on the next highlight of the next day. The concept behind it is that if you have to work on massive projects that you can't complete and there is no sort of end date inside, it's quite demotivating and you don't apply proper engagement to it. At the same time, if you're just looking at short-term tasks and small items to tick off your list, it will give you a false sense of achievement, but you actually are not getting things done in a wider sort of meaning of that word. And another concept is inbox zero. I am very much dedicated to leaving the work on Friday and going into the weekend with all my emails action flagged, and basically seeing that really pleasant side of no new emails. It's very difficult, and the concept is controversial because a lot of people don't believe anymore in categorizing your emails, putting them in folders, because the search tools are so advanced that you can always find something really easily. But this inbox zero, which you can read about more in the Ninja Productivity book, is a really strong concept, and they run workshops for companies around it, and the success rate is around 30%, meaning 30% of people that are in the workshop come out being able to get their inbox down to zero daily. So if that's sort of your goal and you really feel much more in control when you don't have any unanswered emails behind, I highly recommend researching the concept a bit further. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about technology and how you can utilize it to increase your productivity. So this is a little bit counterintuitive because these tools are very much the distraction tools. So that's why I separate them a little bit from the tools that I'll get in a minute. But I wanted to tell you a little bit more about these tools in the context of self-development and learning more about increasing your productivity. So YouTube is a source of so many interesting talks. While you get through the clutter of sort of videos trending and funny videos or just totally irrelevant content, there is really a lot of information and a lot of inspirational speeches and presentations, even around the concepts that I just mentioned to you. So I highly recommend using YouTube for self-development, but even better, Audible. I wasn't convinced at first listening to books because every time I put an Audible on in the evening, I would fall asleep and it just felt unproductive, as a matter of fact. But I developed a good habit of listening to Audible during my daily commute, even if it's just walking to the shop. When my child was smaller, I used to listen to Audible when I walked with him. And I think it's one of the best things you can do if you constantly feel you never have a time to pick up a book and read about anything, whether that's for pleasure, whether that's for self-development or work. And one trick I can give you is if you do get tired and you feel it's monotonous to listen to books on Audible, you have a setting in there where you can increase the speed to 1.2. And I can guarantee you it's not possible to fall asleep when you listen in that mode. So then you can really spend 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening, and get through the list of the lectures that you wanted to consume. At the moment, I'm able to go through 1 or 2 Audible books every month, which it was impossible for me when I try to set time aside to read a proper book. And another two tools is Blinkist and 4-Minute Books. These apps basically give you the ability to read the summaries of the books and get the key takeaways, which again is not the same as getting the full picture, the full perspective, but at least can give you an idea of whether that resource is interesting to you, so that you can dive deeper, getting it on Audible or watching a talk of the author on YouTube. Now, this is a concept from Productivity Ninja. One of the main sort of chapters talks about every ninja needs his set of tools it needs to be technology savvy to help themselves to get on top of the game. And this is the real focus of my presentation. I wanted to talk to you about what tools are out there, but mostly what tools I use to help me with my productivity. I'm going to start with Todoist. I know there is plenty different task management tools. Some people are very committed to Trello. There is Newsbeat. There's a whole range of them if you research. I've been using Todoist for the past 4 years, and I swear by it. I used to be a Moleskine person, and I carried 2 heavy Moleskines in my bag everywhere I went. One for work, one for private, and it was very difficult to switch me from writing down things on paper to electronic version, but ever since I switched, I never looked back. And this is a perfect tool to implement getting things done, productivity flow. You can also research that on YouTube, how exactly to do it, but it basically allows you to set Todoist, set your maybe someday lists, prioritized, set deadlines, assign to team members, throw your thoughts into comments and put them in different folders so that I can easily see what you can do. This is obviously not my personal Todoist. This is just a screenshot example, but I really highly recommend this one, and I use it for both home and for private. And actually there's a funny anecdote that some of my friends are always calling me out on, because I also use this to remind my husband of chores that we have to do in the house. We have a family calendar, but we also have a family Todoist, and he does sometimes forget to switch off the desktop notifications. So he was once sitting in a meeting, and Todoist notification came up reminding him to buy a mop for the house, which was quite embarrassing for him, I guess. But productivity applies both in work life and in private life. Another set of tools, more than anything, I want to talk to you about, not about the tools themselves, but a really powerful way to integrate your tools and extensions to help you to basically save you time. So my favorite integration is the one that you can see on the screen now. I've got an Amazon Alexa at home, which we use extensively, to the point that my 2-year-old kid can switch on his favorite music using Alexa. I have the Alexa integrated with Todoist, meaning that every time I remind Alexa that I need to buy something or I need to do something, it automatically creates a task for me in Todoist. I also have it integrated with Gmail, which I believe is one of the best email management tools because of the advanced integration possibilities. And I also have it integrated with Evernote. Evernote and Keep are the applications I recommend for the brain dump that I mentioned at the beginning. It's a very easy way to clip ideas, to use it sort of as a sticky note, to throw anything that comes to your mind, to clear your mind and create that space we talked about before. And then from Evernote, with one click, you can create a to-do list. Now, in Todoist, you can also assign dates and times for when you want to action certain tasks. And that is linked to your calendar and automatically blocks a spot in your calendar so that another meeting or another important task that you don't get overbooked. Obviously, it doesn't set priorities. So if you have important meetings from work, it can clash, but at least it gives you visibility and it lets you rearrange your calendar in the morning if you see that you're actually not going to get the time to do your highlight of the day or some of the chores. And then more recently, I started using a Calendly tool, which is also integrated with your calendar. And it's my probably all-time favorite of the recently published tools. I think that it's thanks to that tool that I survived ICE this year. and that I didn't spend sort of days on planning my meetings because I used Calendly extensively to send my availability to my connections and making sure I'm not overbooked. And I think my favorite feature within Calendly is the fact that you can set a buffer. So your meetings are basically only happening within 10 or 5 minutes ahead of each other. So on ice again becomes extremely important. So you have time to walk between the different stands and meet people where you need to meet without being constantly late. And then another really useful integration is integration with Zoom, and you can integrate either Zoom directly with your Google Calendar, but you can also integrate it with Calendly so that when you send an invite, the Zoom link already features there, and Calendly automatically schedules the meeting for you in Zoom, so you don't need to move to another tool to replicate the initial meeting. I wanted to show you a little bit more about Calendly because I don't think I can give it enough justice just talking about it. So I have a very short video for those of you that have not come across the tool.
Scheduling meetings with people outside of your company should be easy, but it's not. Everyone's on different schedules in different time zones, so you have to send 4 different emails just to set something up. Calendly eliminates the back and forth. When you want to schedule a meeting, just share your link. Invitees can only pick from time slots that follow the rules you've created, so you're always in control of who you meet and when. Once your invitee picks a time, the meeting is added to all of your calendars. Calendly works with your most common business apps, securely integrating with your calendar, so it always knows your availability, automatically creating your web conferences, and updating your CRM as meetings are scheduled. It even sends invitees a reminder before the meeting. You can embed your Calendly link on your website and include it in your sales and marketing campaigns. Calendly is even more powerful for teams. You can pool availability of multiple team members, then either schedule a meeting that works for everyone, or assign meetings based on availability and priority. Invitees will love being able to schedule without all the back and forth emails. And you'll love being able to focus on the work that really matters. Because in the end, it's not just about saving time. It's about building better relationships and getting more out of every day. To start using Calendly, sign up for a free trial today.
So just to clarify, I'm by no means sponsored by Calendly. It really is my all-time favorite tool. And at the beginning, I had a little bit of an issue to sending people my availability, especially when it comes to scheduling a meeting with a person that is more senior to you. But I've quickly learned that it's very appreciated by them as well to save all the back and forth. Right, next type of integration I wanted to talk about is something that seems obvious to many, but I think it's very important to choose the right extension so that you don't get cluttered, and essentially by having too much choice, you don't use any of them. So I included here my choice of Google Chrome extensions that I use on a daily basis. And it's obviously another integration with Todoist. I've got Todoist for Chrome and Todoist for Gmail added to my Chrome, which allows me for the integration with my calendar. I have Calendly, I have Zoom, I have Grammarly, which I find a very useful tool, especially for those of you who, like myself, are not native English speakers, because it automatically fixes all your spelling mistakes, recommends better grammar, all the way to the point that it actually recommends a better style of your email. Another tool very useful is Cambi, which allows you to annotate PDFs and easily sign them or documents so that you can make notes on your screen rather than have to print it out. I don't remember the last time where I owned a printer, yet I still like to annotate documents rather than do it in a separate Keep Note or Evernote. Google Translate. I worked for a really long time in a Swedish company, and for those of you who have, you recall the times where you get an email in Swedish because it's just someone forgets, it's very useful to have a Chrome extension implemented, because on one click you can translate it, and if you really want to, you can even respond in Swedish. And then another one, a very, very useful one, especially if you work in product, is Awesome Screenshot or Castify, which lets you take easy screenshots, edit them, add annotations, add wireframes if you want to. Similarly, it lets you record videos of anything you see, product demos or any interaction, and it's available on both mobile and desktop. So I find it very, very useful. Now, another technology sort of part which I wanted to talk about is automation and outsourcing. These two concepts are very well described in another book that I read quite a while ago called 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. It's international bestseller for the right reasons. It's a very interesting book. I haven't managed to really implement the concept in my life, because obviously I'm not sitting on a beach in Bali right now. So I think there are some flaws in the book, but there is a lot of very interesting resources. And it's probably not applicable to all of you, but for those who run their own business and don't have access to resources within the company and have to do a lot of things themselves, it's sometimes very worth to consider what your time is worth and whether you could be spending it better, strategizing, being creative, and thinking of the next big thing rather than working on things that someone can do for you. So when it comes to automation, I have recently built my own consultancy website with the tool called Wix. It's very useful. It's very easy. It's a widget approach where you can basically choose all different functionalities that you might need for your business, for your site, and build it. And just to give an idea, my site is probably not hugely advanced, but it only took me 8 hours to build it with full navigation, mobile optimized, and ability to contact me and even watch sort of all the videos that I've got on there, or book a meeting. Another tool that helps you with automation is SlideBean. SlideBean is first of all, it's a PowerPoint, sort of not PowerPoint, presentation creation tool, but the really interesting strength of it is that you can use templates for all the most successful companies' pitch decks. So when you create a slide, not only you can use different widgets that I've got that make all the elements that you have to spend time in PowerPoint very, very easy, but you can also get inspiration from what successful entrepreneurs, marketers, creative people have put in the slides, and you can just pull the templates, change the colors, change the fonts as you wish. So it's very, very useful. This presentation, as a matter of fact, I've created in SlideBean. So it gives you an idea of how much further you can take presentation skills than having to do it in PowerPoint. A similar tool to that, but focusing a little bit more about creating infographics, is Infographia. Most of these tools that I'm talking about have free trials. Some of them are pricey when you want to get a full subscription. But again, I use the free trials for most of the stuff that I need, or the free models, which don't have all the features, but have just enough to get you through. Canva is a very useful tool. You can also do custom slides in there, but it's mostly aimed at video editing and design tools. So if you've never designed anything in your life, but you all of a sudden want to create a poster, a flyer, a custom invitation, or a really, really cool slide, it's basically beginner ready. You go in there and it's really, really easy to do anything you want. Crunch is a great tool for anyone who runs their own business and doesn't want to spend time doing expenses, accounting, all those sort of chores related to your own business. It's very, very easy. You can integrate things with each other and stuff sort of happens for you in the background. It's very little effort needed to get on top of these things. And I personally also use an integration between Xero, which is a accounting and invoicing program. It's linked directly to my Revolut business account, meaning that I just need to reconcile certain transactions once a month, rather than having to input in some kind of spreadsheets and keep all my receipts and things of the past. It's really, really useful. When it comes to outsourcing, I found out about a tool last year. It was recommended to me by a good friend. It's called 99 Designs. It's a global creative platform where you can go in if you want a really powerful professional presentation created for you. There's a range of designers, and you can either choose to work directly with a designer, or you can start a contest, which is a very interesting concept because it's a competitive prize for the type of work that they do for you. And you get between 10 to 20 different concepts from around the world, and you choose the one that works for you best. And then you go through with your designer and you work with him on one-on-one basis. And depending on how much money you want to spend, you have different customization features on how involved you want to get with working with your guy or girl. So I highly recommend that one. Slidebean has a similar function, so you can make your presentations, but then if you want additional design tune-up or you want them to review the slides and help, you can use Slidebean Expert, and the prices are really reasonable. They charge $2 per slide to make sure that your design is up to scratch. So for certain presentations, I highly recommend it. Then if you need something more custom done, maybe a video edited or a teaser or something like that, then a good resource is Fiverr. It's a good freelancer platform. The name comes from the fact that you could action certain requests there for $5. Obviously, there are more expensive services in there as well, but you can get a lot of things done for very competitive pricing. And another concept I haven't used yet, but I'm gearing up to do is virtual assistant. Again, it's not going to be relevant for all of you, but it's going to be relevant to many. I personally really don't have time to research different flights and try to get the cheapest one or the restaurant bookings for meetings or even rearrange my calendar. But it's a really good tool where you can go in and hire a virtual assistant to help you. And it's an opportunity to give someone ability to work remotely and in their additional time and make additional income, while it really frees up a lot of time for you that you can spend on other things. Now, this is sort of an illustration of a situation that I guess happens to all of us. Even with all these tools and all the sort of technology advancement, you still sometimes come to work and see this in front of your screen, or you finish your day staring at a to-do list that you've never had a chance to action because of all the different meetings that are in your calendar. So I wanted to give a couple of different stats around sort of productivity in the workspace. People nowadays, because of the overload information and all the different media bombarding us from every side, but also the fast-paced work environments, the only time that they get to work continuously is around 11 minutes. Average employee switch different tasks at work every 3 minutes. And the research shows that it takes a minimum of 16 minutes to refocus on what you were doing before. People check their emails around 36 times an hour. Average employee gets 300 plus emails a week. I would say that some get 300 plus emails a day, including myself. So overall, if you are experiencing over 50 distractions a day, and it takes you 2 hours just to refocus from these distractions. So considering that there's only around 2.5 hours a day where your productivity is at its peak, it really is important to try to cut through this clutter. Try to not go to all the meetings. If you think about it, if you have around 2 meetings a day, that's 62 meetings a month. And then if you ask the employees, they probably deem 30% of them meetings that they were not necessary to participate in, or that didn't change anything in their day and haven't helped them achieve any of their goals or anyone else's goals. So what are the sort of methods to deal with that? Again, this maybe sounds really obvious, but it goes back to what we talked about, focusing on your goals, making sure that you choose the highlight. If you don't want to be in all the meetings, practice tactical hiding. And this can range from trying to work remotely from coffee shop or working from home once a week to be able to properly focused, trying to schedule the meetings differently, choose a day in the week where you don't have meetings, choose sort of the time of the day where you are happy to go to meetings, which is an afternoon, so you can keep your morning practical, unless you're an all and you work better in the evenings, because it's different types of people that work differently in different daytimes. Remember about the Pareto rule, the 20-80. It is 20% of your action that deliver 80% of your impact. So when you're prioritizing meetings, when you're prioritizing your tasks, try to choose the one that are gonna deliver the impact, not look at the quantity of them, because I think it could be liberating to tick off 100 things off your to-do list, but that's not what productivity is about. And practice ruthlessness. Learn how to say no to others, learn how to say no to yourself, to self-destruction. And of course, many of you are probably thinking, maybe at your job you can do that. My organization wouldn't be, it wouldn't go down well. My boss wouldn't appreciate if I did that. But I think the point in here is that being a productivity ninja isn't easy, and you do need to get out of your comfort zone and just experiment with how far you can get things to protect your productivity times, and your space and your appropriate attention. This is just a slide to show again, stay focused. It's super important to stay focused at all times during your productivity time, and make sure that the distraction that in our age and era are getting, quite frankly, ridiculous. There's so many different media. You get notifications from phone calls, WhatsApp, Skype, Slack notification. Even if you determine that you want to stay focused, there's just the whole technology world is against you. So here's a couple of ways that I've come across to protect your focus time. And the first one of them is a simple kitchen timer. It's called the Pomodoro technique. It goes back to the 80s. It's a very simple method where you set up the timer for 25 minutes continuous work, and you switch off everything else. You continue working on your task until the timer rings, and then you take a 5-minute break before you set up the timer again. And you measure your tasks and your productivity in the amount of times you set up the timer. Nowadays, you obviously don't need to use the actual timer, although I prefer it because I think it's quite cute. But there are apps ranging from called Pomodoro to all different names. Another tool which I'm a big fan of, because I'm a fan of gamification, as you may have known, is called Forest, and it's an app in which you basically control your screen time in a really cool gamified way. So you set up the app during your focus time, and it basically grows a tree while you're working. And anytime you give in to pick up your phone, check your email or any notification, it basically kills the tree. Which is quite sad. And the interesting part about it is that based on the amount of trees people manage to plant and grow, they donate part of the profits to forest reimplantation. So it's a real thing. And for those of you who need some additional motivation, I highly recommend it. And then again, there is a third method for people who don't have self-control, for whom sort of looking at their screen time stats every day is just sort of information, but doesn't prompt them to take any action, and apps simply don't work for them. Perhaps going distraction-free is the way. I think developers call it going dark, switching off their Wi-Fi, switching off everything around them to just focus on coding. For sort of non-product people, distraction-free phone maybe is a way forward. I consider getting a phone like this myself, but for me it's missing the ability to take pictures, because I take a lot of pictures, especially since I became a mom and become sort of my own kid obsessed. But distraction-free phone is a good way to try to not give in to all the sort of overload and replace the feeling of missing out with a really calm Zen-like state. There's a really cool phone out there. It's called Light Phone. And you can read about it online to see what features it's got in and which features it doesn't have. But another important thing about this is a quote, which is one of my favorite quotes from Productivity Ninja: don't get distracted by the productivity porn. Essentially, searching for productivity apps and listening to a million productivity talks is counteractive. Another quote that was mentioned in the book means joining a Facebook group about jogging, a Facebook group about productivity is like buying a chair about jogging. Procrastination at the end of the day is procrastination, even if you spend your time constantly looking for the new productivity tech hack. Last sort of minutes of my presentation, I wanted to spend on talking about outside of work productivity, because I think we talk a lot about work-life balance, but I think it's also important that within your life aspect, you also have a balance between the things that you need to do, the chores, the admin, and the time that really matters, the time that you can spend on yourself, on your family, on things that you want to do most. So there are tools in place that can help you create more of this time. And I would say apply the same principles of getting things done to your private life. When you have private to-do lists, follow the exact same flow and use similar tools. So as I mentioned before, we have Alexa integrated at home with Todoist, so that when I open the fridge and see some missing, I can just say, Alexa, add X to my to-do list, and it just automatically features in the list that I can then look at when I'm in the shop. We have a family calendar so that there's no surprises for anyone. We work in different time zones. We have flexible hours. Both me and my husband are consultants. So it is important to make sure that the other person knows your availability. You can automate on your bills rather than having to pay one by one. You can use tools where you can aggregate all the different bills that you have to pay in a day and pay them all at once. Online shopping obviously is a big one at the moment, probably a bit problematic if you don't want to be in a 20,000 people waiting call to get to online supermarket. But in the times where things get back to normal, I highly recommend online shopping. And my favorite app for those of you who live in the UK is Ocado, which takes this experience to a whole new level, because you can even set up your meals and you can add things to your basket basically based on your weekly menu, which we also exercise because we're big fans of zero waste and try not to buy more than we can consume. So Ocado is really great when it comes to all those new sort of user journey and interaction features. Amazon purchase subscriptions, if you buy supplements, socks, baby nappies, anything like that, you can subscribe with one click on Amazon so that it calculates when you're due your next delivery, and you don't need to add it to your to-do list. You don't need to remember about it. It's just happening in the background until you stop it. Intelligent banking, nowadays there's so many different cards and apps that doesn't require from you to sit and do your budgeting at the end of the month, going through your bills and splitting, analyzing where you spend the money. My personal favorite one is Spendy, but I also started using Monzo app, which categorizes the spend for you, lets you set up the budgets, gives you notification when you're running out of money or coming close to your budget. So it's really useful for those of you who want to stay on top of their finances. And then things that are not technology related, but I think are really important. Not a lot of people talk about nutrition when it comes to productivity, and it's super important. There are ways to increase your productivity with the right food in the morning, choosing high protein meals over typical sort of carbs and sugar, which will make you crash much early in the day, and it's a vicious circle. Mindfulness, practicing mindfulness meditation, whether that's through an app or your personal favorite method, it lets you clear your head in the evening or in the morning and start the day in a much more refreshed mode. And thing that people don't talk about enough, it's sleep. It's counteractive to be super hyper productive and not get enough sleep. And here's another book I wanted to recommend you, which I only read recently, and it really did change my relationship with sleep. It's called Why We Sleep. It's available on Audible, and not only it's a really great source of information, but it's extremely interesting. So definitely one where you will not fall asleep while reading. And then the last thing I want to share with you is a video of a co-worker that I currently share my office with, whom is through this little clip indicating to me that perhaps before I claim my productivity in Ninja Black Belt, I should master switch on, switch off skills in Zoom. So with that, I'm going to leave you.
Excuse me, I was in mute.
Thank you. So I need to now figure out how to get to the place where I can see the chat on Zoom. because I'm not sure there's any questions for me, and if I have much time left, because I think I had around 15 minutes. I'm going to stop sharing screen so I can get to Zoom. Apologies that you see my my desktop right now. Yeah, I see some questions coming through the chat. Yeah, no, I don't see questions. So was this exhaustive of any of your questions, or, you know? So if not, if there is no questions, you know, you can feel free to email me, but I've given you plenty of research sources within my presentation. I'm happy to always answer any questions by email on LinkedIn, or point you to some interesting books, blogs, and so on. And anyone that would like to have a copy of this presentation, also ask Pierre or any of the IGaming Next guys, and I'll be happy to share. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you so much, Karolina, and thank you also to all the speakers of today. Dragan Donkov of the Richmond Foundation, Chris Kiefert, who I feel like climbing a mountain after listening to his wonderful presentation, and now at the end, Karolina Pelc. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time out of your busy calendars, especially during this time. To be with us here today. And I want to also thank everyone who tuned in today. More than 500 people have tuned in and watched the presentations today, which I think is amazing, and it attests to this hunger for knowledge within the iGaming industry, despite the fact that we are not able to meet in person at the moment. Like I mentioned in the morning, we would love any and all feedback, so feel free to share that with us, and we will definitely take that into consideration. Now, this is the end for today, but tomorrow we are back at 10 in the morning again for a panel day. We have two really interesting panels tomorrow. 10 in the morning, we have the HR panel, which kind of discusses what will happen in the future, kind of 1 year onwards from COVID-19, and how offices are affected, how the work will progress as this situation develops. And the panel is really interesting. Its panelists are Fiona Brown, Heidi Loftus, and Marie-Louise Theobald. Followed by, at 11, the CMO panel. The CMO panel is moderated by Darsim Silvan of Leo Vegas, and the panelists are Louise Nylén of Trustly, Claes Winberg of RakeTech, and Sabrina Solda of B2Bet. Also, feel free to stick around here in the conference platform. Check out the networking tool, and also check out the expo area. Support our partners who are making this event possible. Again, the headline partner is Push Gaming. The event is also supported by Authentic Gaming, Swint, Studio 7, Trustly, Ambassador Events, and iPoint. So with that, I will leave you today, and a big thank you to everyone. The sessions will be available eventually to re-watch as well, so we will keep you posted on that. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Thank you so much.